WYSL.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate y'all being here. We're live here at WYSL until 1 p.m. That means you, the listener, can call in. Give us a call, 585-346-3000, or the 800 number, 866-552-1009. So 585-346-3000 or 866-552-1009 if you want to do that 800. Shout down the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in New York and our friends listening online, the Free Solution Facebook page, the Free Solution YouTube channel, and the Kevin Wilson pages, wherever you're listening today. Thank you. Again, we're live, so leave your comments if you want to participate in the discussion. So today we're talking about, well, you know, it's the celebration of 4th of July today. Many of you have days off. I have the day off. If you don't, then, you know, that's okay. Thank you for working hard today. So I was lucky enough to have the day off, and I'm able to do this live show still. And, you know, I want to make sure that we're remembering what happens, why we celebrate the 4th of July, what it took to fight for tyranny. So we'll only spend a couple segments on that, and then we got some other stuff, a big event happening down in the Gulf of Mexico, and maybe some other stuff happening locally too, related to energy supply, if we get to it. If not, I'll push that off till Wednesday. But let's talk about the Declaration of Independence. Let's talk about the fight for independence that the colonists had to go through. And it's been something I've been kind of noodling on all weekend, because if you listen to our Friday show, we had our friends from the Liberty Show on, and you know, those guys, I love those guys, Kevin, Damon, Tim. It was an interesting conversation with them, and we had a lot of back and forth with some of the folks listening online too. And what we're probably going to do a continuation of that discussion, but maybe not live on air, because they felt like we wanted to talk for like 2 hours and we didn't have time. So we're going to probably do that just for our friends listening online too. So make sure you go and like A Free Solution online to hear that. It's going to come up in the next few weeks. And one of the things they said, though, is they talked about like this thing, like we're talking about critical race theory. We're talking about the white supremacy and laws, stuff like that. And so some of the, like, there were legitimately bad laws, bad stuff written into, you know, our nation's early legal systems. And, you know, I think it might have been Damon who made this point, like, about like how, you know, we shouldn't even acknowledge the great stuff that the founding fathers did. And again, these guys weren't perfect. They did bad things. Holding slaves makes them, you know, morally questionable. I get that. But I still think we can look at the Declaration of Independence, what they were trying to fight for at the time, and still appreciate the enormous advancement in liberty that happened during that period. Because I do think it's important not to lose sight of that. Both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which we'll talk about the Constitution Day, and we always bring up like the Frederick Douglass stuff too. But, you know, Frederick Douglass talked about the Constitution as a glorious liberty document. And he talked about the 4th of July too, as, you know, he had this speech called What to a Slave is 4th of July, which if you haven't read that, make sure you go do that. And it talks about like the unfulfilled promises of the founding document, that all men are created equal, that, you know, that they were fighting tyranny when tyranny still existed nearly 100 years later for the slaves in the United States. But that document is still important. The rights, the violations that they acknowledged, the grievances that they presented to King George III, those are still things that, like, we're worth fighting against. The promise of that document is still worth acknowledging. And, you know, I'll make sure I read a little bit. This again, so we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. awesome opening, awesome line in the Declaration of Independence that echoes throughout our nation's history. Again, not always fulfilled perfectly, but this promise, this acknowledgement that every person, and when they said men, they meant, they might have meant men, but they really all persons are created equal, that they all have unalienable, meaning that like you cannot take them away, inherent, like it is not given to you by government, but you have an inherent right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's the next clause, is that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of governments. That saying that in order to make sure that you continue having these rights, you have governments to do things that make sure that life, liberty, pursuit of happiness aren't denied to you by others who wish to do you harm. That in theory, you have a government that is derived from the consent of the governed to be able to help secure those rights. It goes on to say that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And this is, again, we're so far from this point in history that it's hard to appreciate how radical of a statement this is. Because remember, back in this time, again, you still had the divine right of kings. You had some limitations on the monarchy in England with the Magna Carta. You had some limitations on this, but the idea of a nation being formed to protect the rights of people, even if the definition of what they considered people was limited at the time, but even the idea of doing that was earth-shattering. It was such a huge leap, such a huge advancement in human liberty that it again literally changed the world, because people started using the Declaration of Independence, the grievances listed, the rights acknowledged in the beginning of this document, that they started using it to form their own things, to say that no, this government, just because it has existed for a while, has existed for a very long time. These people who are claiming to rule over us, either from, because they say that it is divine right of kings, like it is like ordained by God to rule over us, or because they've just been in power forever, or because they have more, ability to inflict violence on us. No, that doesn't make it right. That's not the reason we have a government. We have a government because we have inherent rights. And to the extent we allow that government to exist, it's because they help us protect those rights. But the moment it stops doing that, the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute a new government, you can abolish your government. That's what that says. Again, it's a radical statement to say that if you don't like your government, let's get a new one. And it's still, at the time, radical. I know there are some examples of quasi-republics before the United States, but to say, like, we don't need to abolish it with violence every time. We could do that with elections. And they hadn't quite come to this point totally yet. They had electoral systems in the United States at this time, obviously. They had their own colonial governments that were trying to be semi-independent from the crown. And it's, a whole other show to talk about how they got together and how they made it work. But to say, again, that you could abolish your government if they weren't protecting your rights is something that not many other people had made the case for prior to this. This built on ideas, Lockean ideas and things like that. This built on all those things. But the Declaration of Independence is worth acknowledging, even if there are problems with the founding fathers. Because as they would acknowledge, the people ruling the United States, the colonies at the time, they're men. They're imperfect. And if they aren't protecting the rights of the people any longer, you need to change that. The government either needs to change or you abolish it. And that's we have to continually relearn that lesson. Again, we can do it in more peaceful ways now. Well, we could. That's always the promise of the republic that we have, is that we can just kick the politicians out, the ones who are violating our rights, who are saying that they, get to take away our right to, operate in the economy in the last year, for instance, that we can kick those guys out and we can tell them, no, as our founding fathers did, no, we will get rid of this government if you fail to protect our rights. That's what we have to continually do. Otherwise, tyranny can creep in. We can become used to it. We can become complacent. And so that's why I want to acknowledge with the Declaration of Independence this early afternoon. It's just reading that one part and acknowledging the good that happened there. Because on that Friday discussion, I felt like, oh, there's nothing good that came out. There's nothing good. The founding fathers are irredeemable. Yeah, man, they did some bad stuff, and we should talk about that. We shouldn't whitewash that. We shouldn't ignore that stuff in our history. But also, we can kind of take these two opposing ideas of slavery existing and also this fantastic document that advances the rights of everyone, even if it was incomplete at the time, but continues to be an inspiration for people fighting for liberty to this day. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back with more in just a few minutes. If you want to participate, give us a call, 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000. We're back in a few.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
The Finger Lakes Castle team is in its 7th decade of factory direct service to the service professional. From cleaning the ins and outs of your vehicle to keeping you on the road, Castle's got you covered. Castle makes streak-proof glass cleaner, FDA-registered sanitizers, and EPA-registered hospital-grade disinfectants. Remember, when you need to keep it clean, use what the pros use. Castle. Accept no substitutes.
Castle keeps it clean.
A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate y'all being here. Again, we're live here on WYSL, so give us a call, 866-552-1009 or 585-346-3000, whichever number you want. Or comment online, that's your preference, wherever you're listening, appreciate you being here. And again, just to keep going on some of the 4th of July stuff a little bit, it's, why are we even able to celebrate this today? Just remember that, the people who founded this country, the people who were instrumental in making it happen, were willing to fight and die to have a more free government, to have a government that where in your own local community, you were able to determine what your governance looked like. It wasn't from a far off distant land, in this case, the King of England, who were able to impose taxes on people, who were able to quarter soldiers in there. There's a whole list of grievances that are listed in the Declaration of Independence. Said the not enforcing laws consistently, suspending governments, refused to pass laws that would allow for, representation, for immigration, dissolving houses. All these things were things that, after years and years of abuse, it didn't happen right away. Years and years of abuse. The tactics that the colonists, the revolutionaries, used were, they evaded taxes. They, would disobey, orders from the redcoats who were trying to get them to, disperse or stop rebelling or, stop speaking out against the tyranny that was happening. They would riot in cases, like the Boston Massacre. It was basically a riot. It was what turned into what was the snowball fight turned into, several people dying. Vandalism, like the Boston Tea Party. People trying to make sure that they, the British trying to make sure that colonists weren't able to defend themselves. All of these different things, kept escalating and escalating. And that's what kind of kills me because I know I get these calls and every once in a while. I got one, in the other day, and I love your calls and everything, but I got a call saying like, oh, we got to, or it might have been a comment saying, we got to tell people to respect authority as in relation to like violence in Rochester. We got to tell people to respect authority. Listen, our founding fathers did not respect authority. If they had respected authority, if they had just said, oh, yes, Mr. Redcoat, that's, I guess that's what we have to do because, you guys are the ones who are, keeping us safe or whatever. No, they didn't do that. They recognized tyranny for what it was. They fought back, and again, it didn't start out immediately as like full on war. It started out with small acts of fighting back to just say, no, we're not going to put up with that anymore. And the British could have easily said, you know what, you're right. You guys are way over here. We just want to collect a little bit of money. Do your thing, and have your semi-independence. And that's how most of the founding fathers wanted it to be too. Initially, they weren't planning on doing a Declaration of Independence. In 1775, when this started kicking off, they were just like, hey, we just want to have our rights. We just want to have representation in Parliament. We just want to make sure that, like, for most things, for most affairs, that the colonies have some level of autonomy, that they have some level of being able to manage their own affairs without having to get micromanaged from overseas, from a king who had no idea what was going on and didn't know what was best for the people of the colonies. They didn't want to secede at first. They just wanted to be left alone for the most part, or to have a greater voice in the national discussion because they saw themselves, rightly so, as an important part of the British Empire. But no, they couldn't do that. They had to impose their authority. They had to say, no, you will respect our authority or else. And that was their mistake. They kept doing it over and over and over again, violating more and more people's rights, making more and more people mad until conflict became inevitable. That's what happened. That's the danger that governments still face today, is that if you continually violate people's rights, if you continually refuse to do simple things to say, to respond to when the people are saying, no, you have gone too far this time. If you continually abuse people, you will make conflict inevitable. We don't want that. No one wants that. I don't want that. No, there's some weirdos who like fantasize about this stuff. No, you don't want that stuff. It's terrible. What happened in the revolution was terrible, but necessary to advance liberty because of a tyrannical government of a king who refused to acknowledge the humanity and rights of his subject. But, again, the king being an outdated idea now, we take for granted the revolutionary, the completely novel idea of doing that, the completely novel idea of saying, you know, if this government is being despotic, we need to throw them off. And you know, and there's again, let me quote from the Declaration of Independence against it. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And so, and then they go on saying this, and this is what happened here. And then they provide their list of grievances and whatnot. And again, if you haven't read this in a while, I'll share the link just to save you from Googling it. But it's worth rereading the Declaration of Independence, and that's mostly what I got. Like on the Declaration of Independence stuff. I know I do this every year, but guys, it's important to keep thinking about why we had this, why we have to have this, and keep reminding ourselves too of, you know, what the founding fathers fought for, and why everything they tried to do up to that point, before saying like, well, we need to actually fight to physically to remove the British from these colonies because they are disrespecting their rights to operate independently, to have fundamental rights, and to have freedom. Again, I know, listen to the conversation. I know it's imperfect. We can acknowledge it's imperfect, but also acknowledge the good that happened here. We can acknowledge how awesome of a document the Declaration of Independence is, and keep the other idea in our head of these were men who had contradictions in terms of how they treated people, of how they treated people of African descent as subhuman. Those aren't ideas that we can't hold in our head at the same time. We can think about both of those things. And there are folks on the left who start to lose that. And again, I love my friends from the Liberty Show, and we're going to keep talking about it. As I said, we're going to have another show on that one, maybe not on air, maybe a podcast, so we can keep talking. But, you know, we want to keep talking about that idea of like, let's talk about the good here. Let's talk about how the Declaration of Independence advances rights for everyone, even if it didn't do it as well as it could have at the time. And like, so the people, you know, saying nasty things on 4th of July. I get a mildly patriotic on 4th of July. It's not patriotic for the government. I'm not like, oh, yay, I'm not going to go like, you know, say the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever. You know, I'm not loyal to the government. I'm loyal to the idea of America. I'm loyal to the idea of fighting for freedom. I'm loyal to the idea of making sure that when abuses happen, we acknowledge them and we do everything we can to address those before something bad happens, right? That's what we ought to do. That is our duty as citizens when our government's becoming abusive, to find ways to fix it. I know it can be hard to do. It's tough for me to do. And I'm here on the radio all the time, but I know many of you have families, you have jobs, and you're like, man, I just want to like enjoy my 4th of July weekend, grill a little bit and not worry about tyranny for once. And man, I totally get that, especially since I've had a kid. I totally get that, because that's what I want to do. It's like, I don't want to think about politics. I want to think about this stuff. I just want to hang out and barbecue and enjoy the sun. But we have to, again, is our duty as Americans to think about the ways in which our government continues to violate our rights or finds new ways to violate our rights. If we aren't free, if some of our friends aren't free too. I have a flag behind me that says don't tread on anyone. If I'm free, but one of my friends isn't, if someone, my neighbor isn't, we have to fight for them too. Because that same government tyranny that's oppressing someone else in our country, it can go for us too. Once we start accepting these things, it can creep. It can emerge into new places. And that's why I do this. Fighting for the rights of everyone. Don't tread on anyone. That's my motto. It's not just don't tread on me. Don't tread on anyone. And that's what I think about when every Independence Day weekend, every Independence Day, when I reread the Declaration of Independence and think about what do I do and why do I do it and why do I engage in politics, even though I find it exhausting, many other people find it exhausting, because we just want to get to living our lives, operating our businesses, and hanging out with our families. But no, we have to, though, because if we let it creep too far, things get too bad. All right, so thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. When we come back, we'll talk about some interesting things coming out of the White House. We'll talk about some national news, and then we'll talk about some environmental stuff. Thanks again for joining us on A Free Solution. Give us a call if you want to participate, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Now it's Dan Bongino, weekday afternoons. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast for overnight tonight. We're going to see the chance for an isolated storm after midnight primarily. It's going to stay humid as well, low temperature of 74. Going into Tuesday, another hot and humid one is on the way. High temperature near 88 degrees. The chance for an isolated storm throughout the day. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy skies are expected. Tuesday night, expect a low temperature of 67 while it remains humid with partly cloudy skies. I'm meteorologist Alice Bielfeld for WYSO.
Hi, Tom Hamilton here, president of Hamilton Wealth Management. Both the stock and bond markets have had quite a nice run since the 2008-2009 market crash. We sure don't want to give it all back again. Today, I think we need a different approach to investing in wealth preservation. Hamilton Wealth Management is an independent investment and wealth management firm located in Pittsford, New York. Our clients are successful individuals, retirees, and business owners who don't want to lose what they've worked so hard to save. If you have at least $250,000 in savings and investments, I'd like a few minutes of your time to show you what we're doing differently at Hamilton Wealth Management. So please call our office or visit our website, hamiltonwealthmanagement.com.
To meet with Mr. Hamilton, call 585-381-9870 or go to hamiltonwealthmanagement.com. That's hamiltonwealthmanagement.com. Advisory services offered through Wealth Plan Partners. Securities offered through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Hamilton Wealth Management and Securities America companies are separate entities.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Soul Green Energy, home of the Mini Sun Charger, is the only company in Western New York that specializes in remote grid-independent solar power systems. What's your vision? Indefinite boat trolling? Dry camping with full power in your RV? Blaring Freebird with a cold one in your hunting cabin? Whatever it is, we can do all of that. Visit OutdoorPowerSystems.com to get a quick quote today. That's OutdoorPowerSystems.com.
Looking for something meaningful to do? As a Camp Good Days volunteer, you'll work with children and adults who will inspire you. Just listen to what one volunteer says about her experience.
I get a lot more out of camp than these kids. All I have to do is sit back and look around at the end of the week. The perseverance and just the strength that these children have. It's just such an inspiration in my life. I learned so much and it gives me strength. Really puts life into perspective for me.
Learn more about many volunteer opportunities at campgooddays.org.
The Danielle Downey Credit Union Classic returns to Rochester's Brookley Country Club, July 12th through 18th. Watch the LPGA stars of tomorrow shine on the fairways and greens. Enjoy practice rounds, pro-am, celebrity, and educational events all week long with a $10 general admission ticket. Tickets are free to active and retired military, first responders, healthcare workers, school employees, and kids 16 and under with ID, and to participating area credit union members. Tickets available at DanielleDowneyClassic.com. Proceeds benefit the Pluto Cancer Center Foundation.
Health insurance isn't something you typically think about all that often, but this year has been anything but typical. So at a time when great coverage seems more important than ever, Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield brings you the confidence of a card that gets you into the doctors you trust and affordable plans that help you save on premiums and copays. So connect with us today and get coverage, strength, and support that's always there, no matter how life changes. Visit excellusbcbs.com to get started. A nonprofit independent licensee of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol serviced and tuned before you take it to the field. Open Tuesday through Saturday. Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, East Main Street, next to the Bank of Castile.
You know what would taste really good right about now? Hershey's Premium Ice Cream. And that means Colby's Ice Cream and Bake Shop. 36 flavors, smoothies, soft serves, sundaes, milkshakes. Summertime just tastes better at Colby's Ice Cream and Bake Shop. West Henrietta Road at 390 in Rush. Colby's. Eat in, pig out.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. We were talking about the Declaration of Independence, talking about the 4th of July, all that stuff. Reasons for the season. Again, we're live here on WYSL, so give us a call, 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the show, or leave your comments online and read them on air if they're a good one. And shout down the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in Newark. Appreciate y'all being here today as well. And I'm moving, like, this is a related topic, but I'm going to move on to something slightly different, which is the White House bragging about the cost of a 4th of July cookout going down. And, it's funny seeing this stuff for a bunch of different reasons, but like the issue that they've chosen to pick is just it's so small. Like, I don't get why they bother even like bragging about it, because like to everyday Americans, like it's so little, it doesn't actually matter, even if it is true. And what they say is, they have this tweet that went out July 1st. Says the cost of a 4th of July cookout in 2021 is down 16 cents from last year. Ooh, 16 cents. Don't spend it all in one place, guys. And again, this is 16 cents nationally on average. So what? Like why did they think that this would? Why would people be excited about that? Again, 16 cents on average, it doesn't mean much to you and me. In New York, it might be a bit higher, and in like Alabama, it might be a bit lower. I don't actually know what it is. I don't know how much, ketchup has gone up or down in New York State over the last year. And, again, I buy ketchup like once every 6 months, maybe. So I don't use that much of it, but why are they bragging about this? And it's funny because they're talking about this when inflation for everything else is going up. Inflation for lumber's going up, housing supplies going up for a whole bunch of different reasons. I'll read off the quote of the tweet, though. It says, this is from the White House official Twitter. It said, planning a cookout this year? Ketchup on the news. According to the Farm Bureau, the cost of a 4th of July barbecue is down from last year. It's a fact you must heard. I don't know what that is a reference to. Hot dog. Oh, there. Hot dog. Oh, boy. The Biden economic plan is working, and that's something we can all relish. Oh, God. Who told White House Twitter? Who told White House Twitter about puns? Terrible. It's all like, oh, yeah, the Biden economic plan is working. What are you guys even talking about? And I've said this before, when people are blaming Biden for like the lumber prices going up and all that, the chances are that the stuff that the White House is doing tends to have very little effect in the short term on prices, right? Like it's not going to be a huge thing. And again, this was a talking point I used to defend the Biden administration. And again, I don't particularly like them or their plans or what they're going to do. It is eventually going to raise prices, all the stuff that they're doing, their economic nationalism. But they probably didn't have that much of an effect on stuff you get for your 4th of July barbecue. It just doesn't matter that much, because as much as we'd like to think that the president is turning knobs and twisting dials and whatever to impact the economy is so much bigger than the president. And it is a toxic attitude to think that the president can do all that much with the economy. They certainly can. That the things they say start to affect the economy more and more and more and more. And you can look at that pattern over the years. But the fact of the matter is that the president still doesn't have total control of the economy. And thank goodness they don't. The economy is so much bigger than them. And we should try to diminish their power so the president has virtually no control of the economy. Sounds like we have a caller, though. John from Rochester. John, what's on your mind?
Hey, Kevin.
What's going on, John?
I've got I was listening to the show earlier, and you're talking about the Declaration of Independence, and I got to tell you, I think about this more and more as I get older. The courage these guys had to do what they did is mind-boggling. Because most of the founders, they were very successful professionals, business people. They had so much to lose, and including their lives. And it just boggles my mind. Personally, I don't think I would have the courage to do it. If I was put in that position at that time, and I was an established business person, let's say, I don't think I could have the courage to do it. And I admire their courage so much, especially, during the 4th of July weekend like we had. I think about that quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, John, it's just to put this more in context for our listeners to, like, imagine like a Fortune 100 CEO, like, deciding to commit treason against their country and like knowing that in the process of doing so that they might not be successful when fighting for the liberty, and they're going to lose everything that they built up over the years. They're going to lose all their money. They're going to be on the run. And if they get captured, they are paying with their life. That's what our founding fathers did.
It's just an amazing, I just think it's something I think about more and more. And, I have to tell you, I have to admit I'm a Trump supporter. So you might want to think it's a biased statement I'm making, but I look at Trump almost as like a founding father. Look what he has gone through. He's been targeted right from before he became president, when he was a candidate. The Justice Department, FBI, CIA, etc., targeted him in I believe a very big way, and went through these those 2 impeachment trials and that type of thing. And even now that he's out, you've got Letitia James and Cyrus Vance Jr. Investigating not only him but the Trump Organization and his allies for criminal behavior, and it's something that's never going to end. I don't believe, and I think of what he has to lose. Not only himself personally. I mean, he was facing, and he still could be facing jail, and his sons and his daughter-in-law, and his daughter. It's, to me, there's some parallels there, and I have to admit, I look at him. I know his flaws, but I look at that type of courage. To me, it's courageous.
Yeah, well, I guess you can give Trump that he did put his reputation, his company and stuff a bit on the line for this stuff, right? So like him or dislike him, and I often dislike him. He did put a lot of that on the line. And that's in theory what should happen if you get into politics, right? Like a lot of politicians get in and somehow they come out of office way richer and like seemingly untouchable, and that seems bizarre to me to have that happen. And again, I disagree with a lot of what Trump does, but he has taken a lot of heat for this, rightly or wrongly, and bringing attention to himself, regardless of whether he did whatever his charges are coming against him. He brought a lot of attention to himself, and that's
Kevin. The other thing, I really appreciate your opinions. You're a libertarian, to a certain extent. I am too, but not to the extent you are. And I really respect your fresh outlook on a lot of things. And one of the things I'd like to get your take on is the Justice Department and the FBI went after, in the last number of years, his personal attorneys first it was Michael Cohen, and we know Michael Cohen was no Boy Scout, but he was a personal attorney for the President of the United States, and for the Justice Department to do what they did to Cohen and jeopardize privileged information between him and his client was, to me, unbelievable. And they did the same thing to Giuliani. And I just look at that as those two attorneys, in my opinion, should have been off limits.
Yeah, and yeah, for those who don't know, Giuliani is no longer allowed to practice law in New York State anymore. And that's because of some of the stuff he was doing with like the election things. Listen, John, I appreciate the question. I don't think I'll have time to answer that fully right now before the next break. But what I think I'll do is we'll go to break now, and then when I come back, I'll answer that question and keep talking about some of the other issues today. So I'll answer that question, or kind of my thoughts on that. Of, is it right that the Department of Justice is going after folks like this? All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. And again, give us a call if you want to participate, 585-346-3000.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, "He is my refuge and my fortress, for he will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease."
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. We're here on WYSL until 1 o'clock, and it sounds like we still have John on the line, so I will answer John's, well, I don't know, question, but like giving my thoughts on that type of stuff. And here's the thing, again, if you're going to be in politics, like Donald Trump chose to, you're exposing yourself to a bunch of stuff where you might be able to lie low. I mean, Donald Trump's never one to lie low, but there are so many laws related to taxes, to accounting, to the stuff that you and I do on an everyday basis, that if you become an actual threat to the establishment, again, I didn't agree with many of Donald Trump's goals, but I do agree he was an actual threat to the political establishment, or at least the establishment saw him that way. And so what's going to happen is that if you have done anything wrong, if you didn't perfectly cross your T's or dot your I's or do, everything absolutely perfect, the government can find laws to go after you for. And this isn't a statement on what Trump has done or hasn't done, because I honestly don't know enough about him or his lawyers and what Rudy Giuliani did. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know enough about this stuff to say. But if you are becoming a threat in any way to the government and you have not done everything absolutely perfectly, and trust me, it's very hard to do everything absolutely perfectly, even if you're a good person trying to follow all the laws as much as you can, the government can go after you. And that's what happened here. And they won't only go after you, they'll go after your allies too. So that's what I see happening here. Is if you put your head up, the establishment's going to take pot shots at you. Like that's what's going to happen. And you kind of have to expect that. And that's what happens with anyone who really seriously challenges the status quo. And again, if they did anything actually wrong, should they get away with it just because they're apolitical? Well, no, they probably shouldn't. If they're actually hurting people, again, I don't know enough about this stuff to know specifically what's happening with Rudy Giuliani. I know a little bit about the Michael Cohen stuff or Donald Trump. If they defrauded someone, okay, sure, they probably should have gone after it a while ago. If they defrauded someone, why are they doing it now? Well, because again, he's a threat. John, you have anything to add to that if you're still on the line?
Yes, I am. I was just going to say the Giuliani. I happen to know a lot about the Giuliani case because I watched almost 30 hours of the legislative hearings in the battleground states on the voter fraud issue, and Giuliani, to me, he was representing a client, and he had 900 affidavits on various aspects of not only fraud but other irregularities and tampering and coercion and that type of thing. And that's why, to me, what they did to Giuliani, in addition, Giuliani being the president's attorney, they violated Giuliani's freedom of speech, I think, as an attorney. The Bar Association did. Right. I don't know. It was very unjust. And Kevin, it's scary. Because if they can do that to Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, it's scary. And because they could definitely do a lot worse to us because we don't have the resources to fight them.
Yeah. Again, though, I just Googled this. I've seen about the story, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it. All I can see is they said he had made demonstrably false, misleading statements about the election. And if you're an attorney and they say you're making false statements, they can pull your ability to do that. But I think the overall point that you're also trying to make stands too is just to say, again, if they could do it, these high profile folks, like if it is actually politically motivated, that sends a message to everyone else too, the other people with power and resources that, hey, this is a threat to you. If you also speak up, then you can be in trouble unless you've been absolutely perfect. Again, I think I would be generous in saying that Donald Trump has been less than perfect. I think he's been a bit sloppy in some of this stuff, and so is his attorney, so have his accountants. Like, he's in trouble for some legit stuff, but it's stuff that probably would have flown under the radar if he wasn't president, for better or worse. And that's a message to everyone else thinking about the same thing. Hey, you want to raise a ruckus like Donald Trump? This is going to happen to you too. And that is serious. That's something to worry about. That's something to worry about, like the health of the republic. Again, not that
exactly. That's my whole point. That was my whole point. Whether you're a Trump supporter or not, or a Giuliani supporter or not, it's scary. It's scary, and you send that message quite a bit that government can be a danger, and it's becoming one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else to add, John, before I go on to other things?
I hope you had a good 4th of July and enjoyed the Declaration of Independence talk.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in. Again, folks, if you want to call and participate in the discussion, only got a couple minutes left today, but give us a call, 585-346-3000. Calling any of our shows. We're always live, or usually live. Yeah, I'll tell you if we're not live. But, live today. Larry Sharp's in tomorrow. I'll be back on Wednesday. Thursday's Tim O'Connor. Friday, I know last Friday we did the Liberty Show, but this Friday will be me and Tim again. Gonna have Tim back doing some more fake news Friday stuff, but a couple other I'll just do a couple other light news items too. And again, I think I understand what John's saying, and I kind of agree with that point because I thought about that when I ran for office last year. I thought man, if I'm not doing everything perfectly, if I mess up, if I'm not doing my taxes right, if I'm not maintaining my property right, if I'm not, doing everything as perfectly as possible and someone can catch me in something, if I become an actual threat to the political establishment, they'll start digging that stuff up. They'll start finding ways. Hey, you broke this law, whatever, not that I'm trying to do that, but there's so many laws on the books nowadays that if someone wants to find something you've done that's illegal, they can usually find it. And turn your life into a mess, and I've seen that happen to some folks. It's terrible, and you've got to be perfectly squeaky clean to be able to get through this stuff unscathed. Because if there's any dirt on you, they'll find it. Not to scare anyone from getting in politics. It's just that's the way things go nowadays. That's the way the establishment stays in power. If you're really challenging the status quo, it's not without risk to do so. So not that I faced anything that hard, but maybe I didn't challenge the status quo enough. And I want to make sure I read this comment from Tim O'Connor too on the air. He said, I donated my 16-cent freedom dividend to the Libertarian Party in New York. Good job, Tim. You're so generous. The 16 cents that Joe Biden saved us in barbecue supplies. So thank you. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to take advantage of this. The only barbecue I had is I bought an eighth of a cow like several months ago, because I do this every year. I buy like a whole bunch of beef and store it in my fridge. So I had steaks and potatoes that I had. So didn't get to take advantage of it. Joe Biden could have saved me a whole 16 cents. I could have invested that in something great. Could have grown. Who knows? And since I only have a couple minutes left, I'll read off one more bizarre instance that happened with the White House press secretary. She says the president ran on and won the most votes of any candidate in history, President Joe Biden, on the platform of boosting funding for law enforcement after Republicans spent decades trying to cut the cops program. So sorry, this hurts my brain because the press secretary for Joe Biden is saying that he ran on a platform of boosting money to law enforcement and that Republicans are trying to defund the police. What is she talking about? Politics is hilarious, folks. I see stuff like this and all right, no, Republicans ain't trying to defund the police. The Democrats, a lot of progressives are running on platforms of defunding the police, but now you got Joe Biden and his press secretary talking about how just the opposite is happening. It's just kind of like weird propaganda. I can't even wrap my head around it. What's happening here? Are they trying to shift the narrative around that, where the Democrats are always the ones who are spending too much money on police? I don't know. It's something I have to look into more, but I want to throw it out there just because I saw that go out over the weekend and I thought that was bizarre, and you, the listeners, would appreciate that. But we are running out of time for today's show. Again, Larry Sharp will be on tomorrow. I'll be back on Wednesday, Tim O'Connor on Thursday, and then both of us, me and Tim O'Connor, will be on this Friday. Pinky promise. It's actually going to happen this time. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Again, we'll be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful day. Take care.